Welcome, football fans. Buckle up for another hard-hitting episode of Player 54 Podcast, an independent show focused solely on alternative and opportunity football. From a sunny Southwest Florida studio, here is your host, Michael Lathrop.
Hello, football fans. This is episode 141, CoFL coming to Indianapolis. Welcome back to another episode of Player 54 Podcast. Today, we welcome Indianapolis Capitals managing partner and head coach Hal Mumme to discuss his team, the decision to join the Continental Football League, and more. Welcome, Hal. I appreciate you taking the time to appear on the show to discuss the Indianapolis Capitals joining the Continental Football League and possibly more.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Michael, and we're really looking forward to being in Indy again, and had a lot of great success the last time we were there, and we look forward to doing that again with the Caps.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, it's a pretty exciting time, but I know that more and more is developing, so the excitement is premature, I guess, at this point to see what's yet to come. But, Coach, before we kind of get into, this recent announcement, I typically, when I begin these interviews, I give an opportunity to guests to provide a brief background of themselves. You are a well-known in the world of, football. So I don't know how much is going to be unknown to those people, but, I believe maybe many are not aware to your original origins. Can you take a moment to share where you were introduced to the game of football and when you knew that you wanted to pursue a career in football?
That's an interesting story, and you're right, it doesn't get asked very often. When I was a little kid, I grew up around San Antonio, Texas. My grandfather had a farm near there, and so I spent all of my summers there. But in the fall, we would go back. My parents would take me to the games at Alamo Stadium, which is the famous old stadium there in near downtown San Antonio. My mother was a cheerleader for Brackenridge High School and led the first yells in that stadium in 1940 something. But anyway, in the 60s, the mid 60s, and I was about 8, 9 years old, we would go because I had cousins that were about 10 years older than me that were participating in drill team and cheerleading and football and everything surrounding a game. And they would take me on Friday nights to the games, and I just thought it was the grandest thing I'd ever seen, and I fell in love with it immediately, and loved the smell of cut grass and popcorn on a Friday night in a high school stadium in Texas. And so that was where I got infatuated with it, and it just kind of grew. And ever since then, I always kind of knew I wanted to be involved in football.
Well, and you have been. So no short of it, right? You've had plenty of your journey has been plentiful, shall I say. Well, as I said, that you've had a well-traveled coaching career, which includes stints across the collegiate and professional developmental landscape. You have coached in the XFL 2.0 with the Renegades, the Spring League with the Linemen, and a brief stint with the International Football Alliance with the Caballeros. Why have you made it this area of the game, your focus for work? What has been your draw to the developmental aspect versus seeking maybe higher end professional aspects?
Well, I had a couple of chances to go to the NFL earlier in my career, and I turned them down, mainly because we were totally infatuated and in love with air raid football and what we were doing with that. And if I had I was offered a coordinator job and I was offered a position coach job, but at 2 separate occasions, but I just didn't want to lend myself to the offenses that were being run in the NFL at that time. And, they probably would have used some of my ideas but not very many of them. And so we were just headed a different direction in the way the game was played. And so I just always turned them down. Um, and then as I've gotten older, the developmental side of it is really appealing because that's of all the pro athletes, they're the most fun to coach because they are there truly for the love of the game. Uh, all they want is to get better in some small aspect of their play and to get enough film to be looked at by the NFL or the CFL. So to me, that's really a fun group to coach. We won the spring league in Indianapolis in 2021 with a team called the Linemen, and they were just really great guys and fun to coach. It was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in coaching.
Well, speaking of Indianapolis, the Indianapolis Capitals are now the 7th team to compete in the relaunched Continental Football League, and the 4th and final team to be a member in the North Division. Can you share how this revival of the Capitals came about and why the Continental Football League is the right fit for your organization?
Well, I think it mainly came about because of the spring league and the linemen. And by linemen, I'm not talking about offensive linemen or defensive linemen. I'm talking about the guys who have the 4th most dangerous job in the world. They climb electrical poles and make sure everybody keeps their lights going and their heat on in the, some really tough weather. And they became involved. Mainly my wife, Jacqueline, decided when we went up there that it was such a neat mascot that we should invite the real linemen to the game. And one of their great leaders up there is a fellow named Chris Wilson, and the local 1393 got involved, and at a time when the virus was, people were not attending events and stuff like that. We were one of the only teams playing that actually had tailgating and people showing up for the games. And we brought a lineman on the sideline for every game, and we'd use his tool belt as the turnover trophy for the defense. And when we won the North, then went to play Kevin Gilbride's team in the championship in Houston, the linemen in Indianapolis contacted the ones in Houston, and they all showed up and tailgated. And it was just our players bonded with them, and it was just a great time. And they're such brave people, and they're such humble people that we wanted to do something to advertise them.
That's pretty cool. So why the Continental Football League, though? Right. So now you're back in Indianapolis with the Capitals, but why the Continental Football League? There's so many leagues to pop up all over the place, Hal. We've had this and that. Some have stayed a little bit longer than others. Some have had a brief cup of coffee. Yeah. But why the Continental Football League?
Well, I've been involved in a bunch of them, going all the way back to the mid '90s or early '90s with the spring professional league, which lasted about a month before I went to Valdosta State. But it's always just the same thing. It's always the same story. The players are so much fun to be around because they love the game. They're really accomplished at the game, and they're just looking for that one step, the next step. I think of it as like double A baseball. It's those guys are all they're just right on the verge of making it to the bigs, and so that's the way these guys are. But I think the Continental League has some really good qualities about it. It's got good leadership, good management, and so that's why we wanted to be involved with that. And like I said, Indianapolis is kind of a neat place to do it.
Yeah, you're also, as of late, you've been wearing multiple hats or filling multiple roles anyway. But in addition to your role as managing partner, you're also the Capitals head coach. So, as we had kind of touched on before, it appears to be pretty obvious that the Capitals will be using your notable air raid. But what probably is not as obvious to people and what they may be interested in is what would head coach Hal Mumme be bringing for your defensive side of the ball? What can Capitals and CoFL fan come to expect to see from your Capitals defense in 2026?
Well, I think defensively, everybody thinks air raid doesn't mix well with defense, but it really does, because if you have the right coordinator and the right guy running it, it's like a hand in a glove. And players like playing for it. Defensive players like playing for a team that they know is going to score. And so that's probably the number one thing that gets brought to the table, is that we're going to move the ball, we're going to score. And it's a lot easier to play defense if you know the game's not going to end up 12-6 or something like that, So
Sure.
I think that's the number one thing. But then, just picking the right personnel on the defensive staff that'll be up to me to do. And I've got some guys that have done this before. Tom Mason was our defensive coordinator when we won the spring league, and he did a wonderful job. Hopefully we can get him back. But there's some other guys out there that I've worked with that understand how to play defense and coordinate it with the air raid offense.
Your good friend, Manny Matsakis, and your pupil in Stan Bedwell are with the Ohio Valley Ironmen and San Antonio Toros. What do these connections within the league mean to you, and how do you anticipate they will impact the competitiveness in the upcoming 2026 season?
Manny and I have been friends for a long time. We've played each other before. We both coached with Mike Leach, so I mean we've been a lot of synergy there, and I look for a great rivalry with Wheeling. I think that's Manny has a great appreciation for the history of the Continental League, and I think it was a brilliant idea to bring it back. And there's so many great, Bill Walsh's first head job was in the Continental Football League. Kenny Stabler played in the league. There's a whole bunch of great NFL Hall of Famers that got their start in this league. And so it's something that's needed, and I think it was a stroke of genius to bring it back. Stan is a guy I've played. He's coached on my staff a couple of times. He's played for me in the spring league. He's a brilliant young coach, and he'll do a great job in San Antonio. And maybe we'll get to play in the championship. That would be fun.
I was going to say, it seems to be the only pathway, right? So you got your work cut out for him, yourself, and as well as himself. But no, that looks to be pretty promising. It's pretty cool to see some of those backstories and those connections. It makes it more than just meeting somebody for the first time and competing against them, but you also have a little bit of an insight into the minds of those individuals. So it kind of, a little bit, so it gives you, like I mentioned, that competitiveness. It kind of, you're not going to be completely blindsided, but the sad thing is they also know it's like a mirror. What you're seeing, they're kind of seeing it back, knowing kind of your mind a little bit as well.
Of course, it makes for a nice chess match when you play.
Right. So it's definitely something to look forward to. Seeing that we are less than 4 months from kickoff now, how soon should we anticipate announcements regarding coaching staff, players, player signings, venue, maybe even fan initiative events?
Well, my goal is, since we're getting this thing running up and running, my goal is to have all that done by the end of March. So we've got a busy 30 days ahead of us.
That you do. So you heard it there, people, by the end of March. Okay, so before I let you go, I would like to provide you with an opportunity to share something that we have not touched base on here. So perhaps there's something that you believe is very important at this stage for the Indianapolis Capitals, for the football community to know as you prepare for your season with the Continental Football League.
Well, I think the number one thing we want to do in this league is feature as many local players as we can. And Indianapolis and Indiana's, it's become the center of the football world now, thanks to Kirk Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. So it's really something we look forward to being part of the whole Indiana scene. And so we'd like as many players from there as we can. So hit me up on social media. You can get me on X at Hal Mumme. I'm on Facebook. We'll have an announcement for you on the website for the team here shortly. and all the social media. So, people that are interested, if you are a player, players, hit us up and let us know, and we'll have some tryout situations here real soon.
Well, Hal, I appreciate taking the time to appear on the show to discuss your Indianapolis Capitals and the Continental Football League with me. The league and your organization, like I said, have less than 4 months to prepare for the kickoff coming May. I wish you, the Indianapolis Capitals, the league, the best of luck, and perhaps down the road, if your schedule allows for it and you have interest, we could have you come back and we could discuss the state of the Capitals and how the CoFL season has gone for you.
Oh, of course. We look forward to it, Michael.
All right. Well, again, thank you. And you mentioned follow yourself on X if you want any updates for the meanwhile. So people, be sure to check out Coach on X and stay tuned. But thank you, Hal.
Thank you. Appreciate everything. Thank you.
The Continental Football League now have their 4th North Division team secured and are preparing for May's kickoff. The Northern Division lineup spans across 2 time zones and 4 states. They're doing a good job in setting up the league for Northern expansion in Season 2. There's a good possibility we could see teams added along the East Coast and in the Sun Belt region in future seasons. That concludes another show. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to having everyone back for an all-new episode of Player 54 Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into today's show. You can support the show and our partners by using code PLAYER54 at checkout at any of the following websites: RoyalRetros.com, where you can save 15%, TrueVictory.com, where you can save 15%, BuckedUp.com, where you can save 20%, ImpactMouthguards.com, where you can save 10%, HobbyArmor.com, where you can save 5%, JustMeatJerky.com, where you can save 10%. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe and rate Player 54 Podcast on your platforms of choice. Do you have a question or topic you would like to have discussed on the show? Message us via social media or send an email to player54podcast@gmail.com.